it's Madeline, and I am going to be presenting on cohabitation for marriage and family. So, first of all, I gotta talk about how the dynamics of couples with children who are unmarried and cohabiting compare to that of a traditional marriage. This is my research question. So, in order to do this, I decided that I would first examine the effects of cohabitation and cohabitation trends on marriage itself, and then examining the effects of this on children. And I'll be using peer-reviewed academic sources. So first of all, it's important to define cohabitation. So you can see I used pretty much one source to define this, and it's pretty simple across the board. There is casual cohabitation, which is cohabitation absent of plans for marriage, but it is actually generally thought of as the first in a series of steps leading to marriage. So, when people move in together, generally they and the people around them are assuming that, okay, they're going to get married eventually. This is the first step. And then also there is pregnancy as a factor that could cause cohabitation. It either pushes parents into cohabitating, usually like either during the pregnancy or within the first year of life of the child, or if they already live together, it solidifies it and they are, sticking it out together during this pregnancy. So, trends in cohabitation recently. We see that low-income women with children are more likely to cohabit than marry, so it just is over marriage, higher trends of cohabitation than marriage. And half of all adults, as of right now, or I guess this was 2006, so maybe it's even more now, half of them have cohabited, and most recent marriages are preceded by cohabitation. And this makes me want to ask a question because as you'll be able to see later on that cohabitation actually has a negative effect on marriage, either preventing marriage from happening or causing a divorce later on. But this is making me wonder if it is actually cohabitation that is the cause of these things, or if it is really just the divorce rate holding consistent, since, if you cohabitate, that's kind of like a closer relationship to marriage than, just a casual dating and living apart. So, that's just a question I have. I feel like it wasn't really answered by any of these, the sources I was looking at, but I don't know. So, and then half of all cohabitating relationships end after 1 year, and up to 90% end within 5 years, which I found really interesting because I feel like I just don't really see that. Maybe I don't have enough people in my life that cohabit and live together in long-term committed relationships, but that just seems like such a crazy thing. I don't know. And then racial demographics for this is that African American couples are more likely to cohabit and remain involved over time without marriage than white couples. And so because of this, marriage rates have declined, cohabitation rates have increased, and an increasing number of children have been born outside of marriage, and the rate of marriage among low-income couples have declined. Mother-child relationships have taken priority over couple relationships, and fathers have become complementary to family life. And there's no sign in any nation across the board that cohabitation is in decline. It's actually opposite. It's increasing everywhere. And young people tend to see cohabitation as a trial marriage and engage in it to make sure the relationship will last. It's also seen as a more appealing alternative to dating around. So see, this is why I thought it was so weird that so many cohabitation relationships end so suddenly, because it's the first step into marriage. But also maybe it's a good thing because then you don't end up getting married and you end up marrying someone who you will be with for a very long time. So I feel like maybe they really make cohabitation out to be a very evil thing. Not evil, but I don't know, they just view it so negatively, and I feel like that's just very harsh. So we can see that it's becoming a norm. Many people actually see it as a wise step before marriage, and As of 2002, over 50% of women ages 19 to 44 had cohabitated a portion of their lives compared to 33% and virtually none like 100 years ago. And in reaction to this, marriage rates have plummeted. So as we can see just some numbers here, the yearly number of marriages per 1,000 unmarried women ages 15 or older has dropped by half since 1970. And then more than 40% of cohabitating couples today have children. This percentage is growing partly due to a declining amount of cohabiting couples to convert to marriage. And then we can see on this table here that nationally, which also I feel like again this is maybe a little bit out of date, but there really wasn't a lot of modern studies on this. I'd be curious to see COVID's effects on cohabitating as well. But you can see here that compared from the 1990s to the 2000s, that everywhere has a jump. And let's see, I'd say Australia and Canada have pretty big jumps, and Sweden has a big one. The USA, I was very surprised. It felt I guess it's 50% change, but still it seems more than that. I don't know, 7.6, but also this is from 2005, so who knows? Maybe it's more than that now. Is it beneficial to the longevity of the relationship? So for low-income couples, it's really common that their cohabitation does not end in marriage. There's several reasons for this. One of the reasons is because of the ambiguity in the norms about parental cohabitation. So it's just kind of it's a new thing. There's not really set standards about it, and you're kind of trying to adhere to marriage, but also not marriage. You're not ready to fully commit. So it's a really confusing middle. And a lot of times when people in cohabitating relationships break up, they have very quick rebounds, meaning that they're just not going to get back together. Also, something for low-income couples, it's because they have really high standards for marriage. A lot of them in qualitative interviews were saying that it is better to never have married than to marry and get divorced. So they just have very high standards for marriage. They want it to last, and they're okay with getting married later in life. And then also the old notion that marriage is a requirement in order to have sex, have children, and live together. It's not really as much of a thing as it used to be. I feel maybe people from the older generation will frown upon it, but they're not gonna tie women up and put them in the basement or something. I don't know. So and then there's also the individualistic ethic, which is the idea that personal happiness and fulfillment holds the highest value in someone's relationship. So if either of the people in the cohabitating relationship feel as though their personal happiness is not being fulfilled, they're just gonna up and leave, and they can do that, and it's an expectation that they would do that. And then there's also the conflict of availability and commitment, which again is because they're just kind of trying to adhere to both standards of marriage and also being single, which leads to a high mistrust, and following that is high infidelity rates. So also these couples experience less of the benefits that often accompany marriage. This was found through many surveys from Dr. Popenoe. So, they're lacking in overall happiness, financial stability, and overall health. And then the cohabitating couples that end up getting married, again, have higher chances of breaking up. They generally have a lower income than married couples. And actually, in the USA, cohabitating couples' chance of breaking up is 5 times higher than the global average, which I thought was really interesting. And children really don't have any effect on this. Even if they have kids, they're still more likely to break up. And then hindrances to engaging in a cohabitating relationship include the opinion of parents and parental figures, which has been shown to be more influential than the opinions of partners and peers, as well as strong religious affiliations or the fear of disappointing or alienating members of the established familiar social networks. So the reasons that someone might not engage in this kind of relationship is because of basically what their parents think and the way they were raised in terms of religion. But yeah, it just seems really, I don't know, it seems like such a bad idea to cohabitate. And it's just so funny to me because so many people are like, oh, that's a great idea. Like a trial run before marriage. Like you should live together with somebody before you get married to them. Um, but then the other part of me that is wondering about this is like, okay, are they breaking up more or because they don't have that marital commitment? And are those marriages that stay together because they have that marital commitment? Are they like unhappy and they're just staying together? I don't know. I don't know. And so now it's time to talk about children. Children between unmarried couples can bring about relationship suspension, which is when the couple engages in periods of cohabitation and time apart. So it's just very back and forth. The children are at the core of these relationships, but this instability, which includes relationship suspension or just breaking up, it really affects a child's well being negatively. Since a familiar breakup combined with the potential loss of one residential parent causes a lot of stress on the child. So, if your parents live together and then they break up and your dad moves out, your mom moves out, and you're going to see them less. That's just how it is. And it's not going to be the same anymore. And that causes a lot of stress on children. And statistically, cohabitating parents also tend to have higher rates of violence and child abuse as well as lower income rates. And then the effects of on children. This was found in a controlled Swedish study that include children who are raised in these homes. They're twice as likely to suffer from psychiatric disorders, diseases, suicide attempts, alcoholism, and drug abuse. And children of parents that cohabitate are more likely to have behavioral and academic issues. But these children are still better off than the children that are of just other kinds of unmarried parent families, which they didn't really specify what this means, but I'm assuming it's just like single moms, single dads, or like you live with grandma and grandpa. Cohabitation has proven to be cyclical, as adolescents in cohabitating parent families were more likely to expect to cohabit than their counterparts. So, this is just saying, like, if your parents cohabitate and they raise you like that, you yourself are more likely to engage in that. And then these are my sources. Yay! Okay, how do I stop?